Now, on the back panel, there are two connectors that live right underneath this panel, this back panel. It's not necessary, absolutely necessary to remove this panel, because you can actually access the connectors through the inside of the board. I'm going to remove the back panel just for, ease of understanding, and just for the purpose of the video. So basically, all these screws, there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 screws that need to be removed. And once these screws are removed, the whole panel can be pulled towards the back, so the connectors are exposed and you can easily access and replace the harnesses. So basically, the harnesses are located one right here, and there's one right here. So we're going to basically remove any glue with alcohol and pull out the connectors. So there's one, there's two, and there's actually another two here. These are not covered, but they're also part of the same harness and need to be removed. I'm going to show that in more detail in just a second. So once these cables are disconnected, the whole harness can be pulled out. So this is the back panel of the unit, and I'm going to show the detail on the connectors on the upper cards right there. There's one connector. It's number 2. It's number 3 and 4 right there. And this is the end that connects to the power supply. So that's the view of the back of the unit with the 2 pin connectors right there. The cupboard also needs to be disconnected. So there's one power connector that needs to be disconnected and pulled back towards the power supply the same way by feeding it through the hole here. So once the cables are removed, the new harness is fed through the back panel where the power supply lives, through these vents in the chassis right there. So I got here right now the 3 connectors that feed power to the fader controller cards. So these will be the first ones to be connected. We kind of dressed them around the cupboard, and they are connected the same way they were previously disconnected. It's always a good idea to glue the connectors back in the same way they were glued before, because it helps protect, these cables from falling off. So it's always a good idea to put some glue, some hot glue back in. It's not absolutely necessary, but it's advisable. So I got the fader controller cards connected. Now the power harness to the cupboard, and also I just fed through these guys that will basically feed power to our lower section of the board. And if you notice, this harness has 4 connectors on it, and there's one in the back side that will connect to the power supply, and it will basically be connected exactly the same way it was removed originally. So right there. Okay, so we got this section connected. Now we're going to reconnect this portion, this section, the upper section of the board. So we basically have two wires for the mic pre section, a longer and a shorter wire. The longer one being the one farthest from the power supply. That means channels 1 through 8. So we're basically going to feed the wires through the same spot they were fed before. It doesn't really matter which one of these openings is used, but it's always a good idea to keep consistency with what we had originally. So the longest of the two will be connected to channels 1 through 8, and the shorter of the two will be connected to channels 9 through 16, right there. And since we have this panel open, we probably want to reconnect these 3 connectors. Those are the LCD boards, the channel bar boards. So these this harness has actually 4 connectors. So 3 of them are kind of closer to one another, about maybe almost 1 foot from one another. And this is the longest cable, and it's this is the side that will be connected to the power supply. So we'll feed it through right here, and we're going to reconnect these 3 guys. And we probably want to use some hot glue and lock those connectors in place. Alright, so that's pretty much it. Now we can proceed to reconnecting the upper cards through the open back panel right there. So this is the harness that will be used for that purpose. Again, the closest of the 3 of the actually 5 connectors will be on the card side, and the one with the longest gap, or the longest cable, will be connected to the power supply. So this is the harness that will be used in the back of the unit, in the upper cards, and we'll basically feed them through here. Reconnect them. Once these are reconnected, we can proceed to closing the panel